Hello everyone and welcome to the Constructed Criticism Network. This network is here to help you improve at Magic the Gathering at every level. From Pauper Leagues to Top 1000 Mythic, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, head on over to our sponsor at PureMTGO.com, where you can hear each and every show, each and every week, and check out their sponsor, MTGO Traders, and tell them that the CCMTG Network sent you. Now sit back, enjoy the show. From YouTube, podcasts, and more, here's this week's episode from ConstructedCriticism.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 139 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's Brad here, and I'll be your host this week as I keep Christian's seat warm while he's recovering from some medical issues. We hope you get better soon, buddy. We're thinking about you. In the meantime, however, I am here with a very special guest who's going to help me get through this entire stack of Innistrad spoilers we have tonight. My guest is the co-captain of the Heavy Gears Brazilian Pauper team, creator of his own content, and editor-in-chief of not only the Common Knowledge podcast, but a whole host of others. I'm very honored to welcome to the show, friend of mine, to the other side of the microphones, Fernando Portelada. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing?
I am doing very well. How's it down there?
Hot? Here in Brazil, it's always very hot.
Yeah. As always, the Common Knowledge Podcast and all of the podcasts on the Constructed Criticism Network are sponsored by Pure MTGO. If you would like to support the show, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Common Knowledge YouTube channel and check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Common Knowledge. For just $1 a month, you keep the lights on here, you help us utilize excellent services like Fernando's, and it lets us do things like giveaways. And speaking of giveaways, the deadline for our new logo contest is October 1st. So if you've got a design for a sweet logo for the show, send it over to myself or Christian, email, Twitter, however you find us. We'll pick a winner on that weekend, and we'll send out the winner a custom playmat featuring their design. All right, now that we got that upkeep out of the way, let's get down with some spooky Innistrad spoilers. What do you think, Fernando?
I think that's time to talk about werewolves, man.
Yeah, werewolves and nights and days and all kinds of good stuff. How are you feeling about this set as a whole? Do you like going back to Innistrad again? I think this is our third visit, second sequel, if you will.
I was thinking about it because I didn't play the first Innistrad set or Avacyn Restored or something like that. I was not playing Magic the Gathering at the time. I was in a bit of a hiatus. I don't know, man, because I'm not a standard player. I only play Pauper. These theme sets like werewolves and vampires and angels and stuff are diluted, in your card pool. You don't see very often a werewolf deck being played in Pauper or more modern or something like that. I'm happy that's not a very OP set. It's not overpowered in any way. But I'm wanting to see some good stuff out there, too.
Yeah, I think so. Just sort of given the set a first glance, there seems to be quite a few playable cards for our format, I think. But I'm with you, too. I'm glad that the standard sets haven't been super overpowered as far as what we get out of them. And to your other point, people have always tried to make pauper vampires work, but we've never really had the enough to make it work, I guess. And yeah, definitely werewolves has never been a thing in our format, unfortunately.
I think that we don't have enough lords.
Right.
Maybe some synergies are good, but without lords, I don't think a tribal deck will work in pauper.
Yep, I totally agree. I am happy about the horror theme in Innistrad. I always love that. But yeah, myself, I was around the game when the first Innistrad came out, but I wasn't really playing much, so I knew of it. But I never really got into any of the decks or cards or drafts or anything like that. But I'm happy we're going back. I'm a huge fan of horror, and this set is very thematic on that front, I think.
Yep.
Well, I think we can just hop right into it. We've got I think there's a few reprints, so we got about 100 cards we're going to get through real quick. Try not to take up your entire night, Fernando, but if you want to do the honors, you can kick us off with the very first one. We're going to go in Wooburg order, top to bottom, and see what we got.
Of course. We will start with Blessed Defiance for 1 white, an instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
pretty straightforward, I think. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I don't think that we have a house for it in Pauper. I think that we have better instants for like Mono White Heroic or something. I don't know. I think that it will be a draft star, maybe a combat trick, but I don't think that's good enough for Pauper.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to test it out the first few days in a deck like Heroic, but I don't think it has quite the strength. I think just from playing Heroic so many times, I think instants are better for protection spells. All right, next up we have Candlegrove Witch. For a generic and a white, you get a 2/2 human warlock with Coven, one of the new mechanics from Innistrad. Coven says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, Candlegrove Witch gains flying until the end of turn. So basically, if you have any sort of combination of 1 power or 2 power, 1x, 2x, 3x creatures, this 2/2 for 2 gets flying? ? I don't know if that's very good. I'm not super impressed with it, but again, it's probably really good in limited, something like that.
I think that in limited, it will be a nice second turn play.
Yep.
2/2 for 2, and okay, you maybe get a flying creature, but in Pauper, we have Seeker of the Way.
Right. Yeah, we have much better 2-drops in that slot. And honestly, I can't think of too many decks that have creatures with different powers on the battlefield at one time.
Yep.
So I'm just not sure how good Coven as a mechanic is going to be for our format, but I like it. I like the theme behind it. You need a group of 3 witches to cast spells and make effects. So I do like where it's coming from. I'm just not sure how useful it's going to be.
Okay, next up we have Candle Trap. 1 white mana for Enchantment Aura. Enchanted creature has Defender. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt by enchanted creature. And have Coven 2 and a white. Sacrifice Candle Trap. Exile enchanted creature. Activate only if you control 3 or more creatures of different powers. Again, with the Coven mechanic, I don't think too that it will be very good in Pauper. If we see the decks that we already have, like White Winnie or maybe Boros, that can make a great board with lots of creatures, they almost have all the same power, like 2/2s or 1/1s flying.
I was just thinking about that with, your Cast and Rally of the Peasants or anything like that, or any of your charge effects in White Weenie. They're all pretty much going to end up being the same power. So I don't think Coven's going to be a huge deal. I do like Candle Trap as a semi-removal spell. We have this effect on other cards, but it's probably fine. I don't think it'll see much play, but it's a decent card. All right, next up we have Cathar Commando. For a generic and a white, we get a 3/1 human soldier with flash. And for 1 generic, sacrifice Cathar Commando, and you can destroy a target artifact or enchantment. I'm decent on this card. I'm kind of medium on it. I like that it has flash and 3 power. That can be pretty huge in Pauper. That's almost a removal spell in of itself right there. And then you can get rid of any problematic, Bonders Ornaments, artifact lands, pestilence, enchantments, anything like that. And it's a human soldier, so I think it kind of slots right in any weenie strategy you're trying to accomplish.
I agree, and it can be a 2-for-1. You flash it into a blocker, and I'll immediately sacrifice to destroy some artifact or something. I think maybe in limited it'll be a great card, versatile card, but again, I don't think that has power level.
Yeah, I don't think so either. If you care about humans and soldiers, or maybe flash, this is probably a decent sideboard card, but I wouldn't go much further than that.
Okay, up next we have Celesto Sanctifier. Is a creature, human cleric, for 3 mana, 2 and a white, at 3/2. If neither day or night, it's become day as Celesto Sanctifier enters the battlefield. It's the first card we have with the new night and day mechanic. And it says, whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, look at the top 2 cards of a library, put 1 of them into your graveyard.
I am pretty high on this card here. Not sure how the Nightbound and Daybound and all that stuff's really going to come into play with Pauper, at least on a competitive level, because it's pretty much a game state kind of like Monarch is. Like when the game starts, nobody's the Monarch until someone is the Monarch. It's sort of the same thing with Daybound and Nightbound. Like you start the game and it's neither night or day, and then you just have to wait for a spell to change it to night or day, basically. It's sort of like the original flip cards, but it's more symmetrical. It kind of matters both sides of the field what's going on. So I don't know if it's going to be super playable, but I do like this particular card. It is a cleric, so it might fit into my party deck, my terrible party deck. And it gives you a little bit of, let you dig a little bit, especially if you care about any sort of graveyard strategy.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly that, because, white, we have Rally the Peasants, we have Battle Screech, and we have the Prismatic Strains, and any of that would be good in a graveyard, in some sort of graveyard deck. And I think it has possibilities, man. It has possibilities.
Yeah, I do too. I like it quite a bit. Next up, we have another human. It's Clarion Cathars. For 3 generic and a white, you get a 3/3 human knight. When Clarion Cathars enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So you get 4 power and 4 toughness over 2 bodies for 4 mana. I like it. I wish it had a little bit more going on, some other synergy, I think. But on its face, I think it's a decent card.
Yeah, decent.
I'm not super impressed with it, but it's fine.
It's fine. Decent. But again, I think I'm going to repeat myself every card we read. It has no power level for Pauper.
Right, exactly. Yep. What's up next?
We have Flair of Faith. 1 and a white for instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a human, instead it gets +3/+3 and gains indestructible until end of turn.
Now, I do like this quite a bit. What about you?
Yeah, nice card, nice combat trick. Maybe in in your party deck with human creatures.
Yeah, something like that. I think the indestructible part is going to be pretty relevant, with our format that's just full of cheap removal, easy removal, snuff outs, cast downs, lightning bolts, that sort of thing. Please
remind me, heroic creatures are humans or something like that?
I think one of them is the Trailblazer, Laguna Band Trailblazer is not. I think that's a Centaur Advisor or something like that. The Akroan Skyguard might be a human. I'd have to double check. Yeah, Seeker of the Way is definitely human. So yeah, that helps out a lot with prowess. That's excellent.
Nice.
Next up, we have Gavin Silversmith. For 3 generic and a white, you get a 2/3 another human soldier. When Gavin Silversmith enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. I like that a lot. I think we're going to go back to your saying of the night. I'm not sure how playable it's going to be in our format, but I do like that it comes in with 2 power and spreads out another 2 power over up to 2 creatures. I like it.
A great limited card. You put a body on the board and make 2 other creatures bigger. I think it's nice, very nice for limited.
Yep, absolutely.
Next up, we have another Gavin, but this time Gavin Trapper. 1 white mana for a 0/2 human soldier. You play 2 tap and tap target creature.
Yep, pretty straightforward. This sort of effect never really sees play in our format, but I've always liked it. I've always liked that sort of tap-down strategy. It's pretty flavorful, too. He's a trapper. He doesn't really attack, so he's got 0 power, and all he does is snare up your creatures. I like that quite a bit.
It's a cool card, but,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Next up, we have our first artifact of the set. It's a white artifact for a single white mana. We get Hedge Witch's Mask, artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and equipped creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 4 or greater, and it has an equip cost of 2. I think that's decent for decks that care about equipment. We don't have a ton of creatures with power 4 or greater in our format, just naturally without any sort of combat trick. So we'll have to see how useful that actually is. But again, it's sweet art and it may not be pauper playable. Is that right?
I actually like that one because we have that embryo of Boros equipment. Mm-hmm. And it goes past Gurmag Angler, it goes past some Mere Enforcers, some the Serpent from Affinity too.
That is true. I didn't think about the Mere Enforcers Affinity. Yep, that's a good call.
Maybe in the future it will be a great card with another stuff that gets released from Boros equipment or something like that. I think that probably gonna buy that one in paper and keep it in the binder for future use or something like that.
Sure, yeah, I can definitely see having a couple copies of it just in case. It feels like one of those that doesn't have a specific home right now, but like you said, you can see how it would play into certain strategies down the line.
Yeah, some kind of sleeper agent of Pauper.
Right.
Next up, we have Homestead Courage. For 1 white mana, have a sorcery this time. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains vigilance until end of turn and has a flashback of 1 white mana. I like this one.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I'm a big fan of flashback spells, and this one's in white, so I'm a double fan, I guess.
If it was an instant, I think it would be great. Sorcerer, not as good, but, flashback maybe have some tests to do with it.
Yeah, I think so. I think flashback kind of makes up for the fact that it's a sorcery, but I think it's just good enough. I mean, like we were talking with Mono White Heroic, this spell is basically 1 white to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, because of the heroic trigger. So I'm always a fan of that. All right. Next up, for a single white, we have Lunarc Veteran. It's a 1/1 human cleric, another party member. I'm going to say that this whole episode, I think. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, so kind of a Soul Sister effect. And this is the first time we've seen this new mechanic called Disturb. So it has Disturbed for a generic and a white. You may cast this card from your graveyard transformed for its Disturb cost. And on the flip side of Lunarc Veteran is Luminous Phantom, a 1/1 spirit cleric with flying. When another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain 1 life. If Luminous Phantom would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Ooh, that was a lot to read.
I like it. I like it. I like the Soul Sisters effect. Another white creature with it, the Soul Sisters effect.
Yep, I like that too. And we've already kind of have an established Soul Sister list since Modern Horizons 2 came out. I can't see why they wouldn't at least try to play this one. Disturb, I like the mechanic. It's kind of like flashback, but on a creature. So that's kind of fun. And then it's a spirit on the back. So we don't have a lot of cool spirits in Pauper, but I think this one is pretty neat.
I was thinking about the Soul Sisters deck, maybe some split. Because, in Walls Combo, you play 1 Llanowar Elves and 1 Visionary Elves and 1 stuff like that. Because you try to hide from Echoing Truths and Echoing Decays. Maybe some kind of split like that. That's
actually not a bad idea. Yeah, cut out one of the Soul Wardens maybe and add this in sort of thing like you're talking about. I do like that.
Next up, we have Morning Patrol. A creature human soldier for 2 and a white, a 2/3. With Vigilance, and it has Disturbed 3 and a white. Another Disturbed card. And the other side, we have creature with Flying and Vigilance. If Morning Apparition would be put in a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead.
I know this one really got kind of popular on Twitter, not because it's necessarily good, but because the art sort of tells a story all on its own. Like both sides relate to each other. It's like this guy walking the soldier's walking his dog or walking the canine, and then the soldier dies, but on the backside, the dog comes back and the ghost soldier and the dog are all happy again. It's very sweet.
Yeah, it looks like that movie with the dog that waits for the owners in the train station that I never had the guts to see.
Yeah. Yep. And I like on the front side, it's mourning as in mourning, like you're mourning the death of someone. And then on the back, it's mourning like daytime, like morning. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Pretty cute.
Yep.
All right. Next up in line for 2 generic and a white, we have Ritual Guardian. It's a 3/2 human soldier. The only text is that it has Coven. At the beginning of combat, if on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, Ritual Guardian gains lifelink until the end of turn. 3 mana for a 3/2 that sometimes has lifelink. I don't think is very good.
Sometimes.
Personally.
Yeah, it's not going to cut it for me.
Yeah, I think we can move on from that one.
But the next one is a great one, I think.
Yep.
Searchy Party Captain. 3 and a white for a 2/2. A human soldier. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you attacked with this turn. When Searchy Party Captain enters the battlefield, you draw a card. This one, is already in some decks, like White Winnie decks. I saw some lists today, and I think that's a very good one because you can attack with a bunch of creatures, cast it and cast a Core Sky Fisher, bounce it back to draw another card next turn. It's a very, very good addition for Pauper.
Yeah, I love it. I think I saw that same White Weenie list on Twitter that you did. I wasn't real sure about the Search Party Captain, but I had it totally wrong. I thought it was more like a raid mechanic where it was just this spell costs 1 less if you attacked this turn. And then I reread it and I fell in love with it. So yeah, I think it's going to be excellent. There will be times, I think on average, this is probably going to cost 2, a generic and a white for a 2/2 that draws you a card. And even that's pretty phenomenal in mono white or any sort of white deck.
Yep. This one is a must buy.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously, the dream is to get it down to a single white, blink it or bounce it like you were talking about Skyfisher or Ephemerate or anything like that. I think this one's a hit for sure.
And the flavor text is also awesome. Werewolves leave messy trails, easy to follow, hard to forget.
I had not read that. Actually, I haven't read much of the flavor text of this set. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. All right, next up, we have Soul Guide Griff. For 4 generic and a white, we get a 3/4 Hippogriff Spirit with flying. And when Soul Guide Griff enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target card from any graveyard. I think we can pass. What do you think?
If it had Evoke, 1 white mana for Evoke cost, it'll be awesome.
That would be awesome. If it had a single white Evoke, yeah, that'd be beautiful, but not so much. But it's probably really good and limited. This set really revolves around a lot of stuff being in your graveyard. So I think in limited, you could really exile that 1 target card that's going to, cripple your opponent's deck, I think.
Yep. Okay, it's my turn. Okay. Next up, we have Sun Goat Barrage. For 2 and a white, you have an instant. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. Great limited card. Meh for Pauper.
Yep, pretty much. We've seen this effect quite a few times, and yet no white decks are running instant speed removal spells. So I don't think this one's going to be any different.
Yep.
Next up, we have Thraben Exorcism. Both of those words are fantastic. For a generic and a white, it's an instant. Exile, target spirit, creature with disturb, or enchantment. Now, this one, we haven't seen a lot of playable cards yet, but I feel like this one's going to find a home in a lot of different sideboards.
Maybe. I think it'll be a staple in Limited, very versatile card for Limited.
Sure.
For Pauper, I have to see. I'm skeptical, but...
Yeah, that's true. I guess it is going to be kind of meta dependent. If some of these disturbed creatures get really popular, then yeah, this is probably awesome or something like that. Maybe I was a little too high on it, but if nothing else, it's really nice to have an instant speed 2 mana white semi-removal spell. Next up, we have a card that has seen a printing in every single Innistrad set so far. It's Unruly Mob. For a generic and a white. It's a 1/1, and when another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Unruly Mob. So it's kind of the white Carrion Feeder or Mortician Beetle, and it's been around for a while. So I think we can move on. It doesn't see much play, so I don't expect it to now, really.
Yep.
White is a little underwhelming. I think we had 1 card that we both agreed would see play, and that's about it. Honestly, there's a couple that are worth testing, and 1 that may be good down the line if some different decks come out of the set, but... Overall, it's kind of meh. I think it's going to be... White seems like a pretty strong color and limited so far, at least as far as the commons go. But yeah, I think we can move on to blue unless you had something.
No, I'm fine going to blue. Okay, first blue card of the day, we have Bait Hook Angler. For 1 in a blue, we have a 2/1 human peasant creature. It has Disturb 1 in a blue. And Disturb is this new mechanic. We've talked about it. You may cast this card from your graveyard, transform it for its disturbed cost. And if you cast it from the disturbed cost, it's Hook Hunt Drifter, a spirit 1/2 flying. And if it goes to the graveyard, you exile it instead.
I think that's pretty straightforward. I like it. Again, it's probably, I know we've said this on almost every card, but it's probably more of a limited card, but I like that it's a pretty clean design. It's a creature, and when it comes back from the graveyard, it's a ghost, and when that ghost dies, it goes away.
Yep. And again, with the Disturber cards, you have great cards, because You can see the bait hook angler almost getting swollen by a big fish or big whale or something, and the next one.
Yeah, it's a big Jaws type shark. Yeah. Each of the flip cards have their own little story, and it's pretty neat. Yeah, he's about to be eaten, and then all of a sudden he's dead, and now he's a ghost.
Nice.
All right. Next up, we have a Homunculus component collector for 2 generic and a blue. You get a 1/4. If it's neither night nor day, it becomes day as component collector enters the battlefield. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you may tap or untap target non-land permanent. It seems like a lot of hoops to jump through just to tap something down for a turn, but I can't imagine it's going to see a ton of play. But it's cute. It's a little homunculus. He's at the door with some little trinkets and skulls and bones and that sort of thing. So if you're playing a one-eyed creature tribal deck, there's probably slots right in there.
I don't know, man. I'm not convinced.
I don't know.
Okay, next up we have something to consider. It's a card considered. For 1 blue mana, it's an instant. And hear me out. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card in your graveyard. Draw a card. First, I want to say here on the record that I'm kind of upset with the text of this card because it's kind of Surveil 1, right?
Yes, it absolutely is. Just in many more words.
Why? Why do you create this mechanic and forget about it just 2 or 3 sets later?
Same thing with Party. I'm with you. They used about 15 words too many. It could have just been Surveil 1, draw a card, and that would have been sleek and beautiful. Yep.
I think that this will be a great card for Standard. Maybe another cantrip to run with Opt, because they don't have like Ponders or Preordain or Brainstorms. Mm-hmm. It'll be great in Historic on Arena. I mean, we have almost the great cantrips of all time. You just don't have...
Oh, yeah.
I guess Ancestral Recall, but all the other ones are on Pauper. I don't think that you'll see that much play, but I think that's an interesting card. Probably going to be on my buy list
for sure.
Joe and paper. And we have to see. You have to see what that Surveil 1 card is going to bring for us.
Yep. I like it a lot. It's definitely, like you said, it's not going to draw a card. I know I've listened to a few other podcasts, not Pauper podcasts, but like Modern and stuff. And they're already talking about how Consider is one of the more powerful cards in this entire set. So we'll just have to see. Each format's a little different, but I think in Pauper it's going to see regular play, but I don't think it'll be like, deck defining or create a new archetype or anything like that. Next up, we have another reprint, Devious Cover Up. 2 generic, 2 blue, counter target spell. If it's countered this way, exile it. Instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard, you may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. Sweet Scarecrow art, but I think we can move on.
Yep, I like the art. Better than the last one.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, big time.
Next up, we have Drownyard Amalgam. It's a 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 3/6 creature zombie horror. When Drownyard Amalgam enters the battlefield, target players mill 3 cards. And you can pay 3, 2 and a blue, and it can't be blocked this turn. Okay. Limited card.
Yep, I think so. Probably a good cube. Yeah, cube card, limited card, that sort of thing. Maybe in some sort of Dimir, like zombie PDH Pauper Highlander card, but definitely not. I don't think in Constructed we're going to see it that much. All right, after the zombie horror, we have a zombie bird. Falcon Abomination. 2 generic and a blue for a 2/2. With flying, when Falcon Abomination enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed, which is yet another new mechanic of the set. A creature with Decayed cannot block, and when it attacks, it is sacrificed at the end of the combat step. I actually like this quite a bit. I'm not sure what blue decks want to pay 3, leave 3 mana open for this, but it is a zombie bird. I like it. It's a 2/2, but it actually comes with another 2/2. So I think you could find some shenanigans with this, with flicker effects and that sort of thing, just to fill your board real quick. I don't know what you'll do after that. It would have to be some sort of deck that cares about your zombies dying or being sacrificed. So you'd have to think about that, but I like it.
We have to see about the decayed zombies. I'm a little skeptical about it because, they giving you zombies like it's cheap change.
Yeah, they're just handing them out to everybody.
Yes, get this cheap change of candy. Go buy some candy, kid, with this decayed zombie that will die in the next attack. And I don't know. It's not like we're gonna make an army of zombies that will get a cannonade.
Yeah, that is true.
We have to see about the decayed zombies. We have to see about how can we sacrifice them to a carrion feeder or something.
Yep, I think so. That's probably going to be the type of deck that benefits the most from them, if some sort of aristocrats type strategy.
And up next we have Flip the Switch. Is a blue instant for 2 and a blue. Great art.
Yeah, fantastic.
Counter target spell unless it controller space 4. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed.
You get a zombie, I get it. Everybody gets a zombie in this set.
Okay, I like it. Not for Pauper, I like for limited, maybe for standard, because 3 mana counterspell is good for standard. We have other stuff like that. And okay, you counter target spell, and we still have a little zombie token to play around. Okay.
And I don't know if it ever would matter, but you would get the zombie token even if they paid for their spell not to be countered. So that may come into play every now and then, like you're guaranteed to get the token, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to see much play in Pauper, but
maybe in Familiars, because if it costs 2, it'll be a great counter spell.
That's true, and it does work with the Sunscape Familiars. This could end up being a 1 mana leak that's just a little bit better.
Yep.
I like that idea, actually, quite a bit. All right. Next up, we have Gail Drifter. For 3 generic and a blue, you get a 3/2 Hippogriff with flying, and it has Disturb for 4 generic and a blue. You may cast this card from your graveyard, transform it. Boom. On the other side is Whale Drifter, Wail Drifter. It's a 2/2 Hippogriff Spirit with flying. If Whale Drifter would be put into a graveyard, exile it. I think it's pretty expensive. I don't think it'll see much play in our specific format. Even the Disturb cost in this one is kind of high. 5 mana for a 3/2 flyer. I don't know. Not a huge fan of that. Or a 2/2 flyer, I'm sorry. You pay 4 and a blue, you get a 2/2 flying spirit out of it. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Next up, we have Geist Wave. For 1 and a blue, we have an instant return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you control that permanent, draw a card. Meh.
I love this
card. Tell me about it.
I do. I don't know why. I'm sort of addicted to it. Like it's so, it seems so silly. I don't know. I just love it.
Okay.
What do you think about it?
I don't know, man. Too expensive. You have to return your own creature to draw a card. I know that you have enter the battlefield effects, but I really don't see it being played a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong, but we'll see.
No, I think you're closer to being right than I am. There's something missing from this card to make it really good. I just can't figure out what it is. Honestly, for its casting cost and for what it does, you're almost better just playing Snap because you get your mana back and you can cast something else. I do like it though because it's a bounce and it replaces itself. But yeah, we'll see how it actually plays out. All right. Next up, we have Larder Zombie. For a single blue, you get a 1/3 zombie with Defender. You tap 3 untapped creatures you control. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. So if you have enough creatures on board, you can surveil one, basically.
Oh gosh, surveil again.
I don't think this is great. I do like that you don't have to tap the zombie. So if you have 6 creatures you can tap, you suddenly get to surveil 2. But yeah, I don't think it's huge. Even if it was like a 1/4 instead of a 1/3, I might be interested. But no, I'm not a huge fan of it, at least for Pauper.
I agree. Next up, we have Locked in the Cemetery. 1 and a blue for Enchantment Aura. When Locked in the Cemetery enters the battlefield, if there are 5 or more creatures in your graveyard, tap Enchanted Creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step.
I think we usually get 1 or 2 of these effects every different set that are sort of on theme with what the set's trying to do, and this is Innistrad's version. Basically, if you have 5 or more cards in your graveyard, that creature doesn't untap. These are never really played in Pauper. Not even sideboards really much, so I think we can move on. What do you think?
You're right.
Next up, we have Organ Hoarder for 3 generic and a blue. It's a 3/2 zombie. When Organ Hoarder enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. I love this effect. I don't play a lot of, blue decks that super care about their graveyard outside of trying to turbo out a Gurmag Angler. But I just know that every time I've tried to play with a zombie that mills me or lets me dig 3 or 4 cards deep or whatever, it's never super great. But maybe I'm wrong. I would like to see a card like this become playable, but I just don't think so.
Me too. Too expensive. 4 mana.
Yep. I mean, you do get a 3/2, but yeah, you're right. 4 mana is just a lot for what it's doing, I think.
Okay, the next one is an interesting one, I think. Otherworldly Gaze. 1 blue mana instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put any number of them in your graveyard and the rest back on top of your library in any order. Flashback 1 and a blue.
Yeah, I think this is very useful. I'm not sure exactly what house it has yet, what home. But, a single blue to mill 3 can be huge. A single blue to throw away 2 of those cards and keep the good one on top, that could be huge. And it has flashback, which is always useful in Pauper.
Yep. I think that blue Exhume deck with, Exhume and Ulamog's Crusher and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Animator, the Dimir one. I think that will be a great card for it. Maybe to speed up some Gurmag Angler. I don't know.
Sure. I don't see why not. Yeah, because really, even if you have to cast it twice, it's 2 blue and a generic to mill 6 cards, if you want to get those in there.
Yeah.
It's something you can do.
I'd love to see some more Reanimator deck on Pauper.
I would too. I would love to see. I know we have the dominant ones pretty much black-red, the Rakdos Reanimator. Then there's blue-black, obviously. And then we have that new sort of semi-reanimator list with Late to Dinner. It's like that blue-white evoke list. Yep. But yeah, I would love to see Exhume and reanimator strategies explored a little bit more. Alrighty. Next up, we have Revenge of the Drowned. For 3 generic and a blue, we get an instant. Target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library, and you create a decayed zombie. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but 4 mana is a lot for that effect, I think.
And the pocket change.
Yeah, and the candy money. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I think I'll pass this one.
Yeah, me too. Next up, we have Secrets of the Key. 1 blue mana instant, Investigate. If the spell was cast from your graveyard, investigate twice instead. And has a flashback for 3 and a blue. I don't think that... I don't think that creates 2 clues for... 5 mana...
That's a lot.
If you're playing blue and you cast 5 mana for something, that's something, it has to be your kill condition.
Yeah, that pretty much needs to be your finisher. It's not just the 5 mana for 2 clues, but then it's an extra 4 mana to draw 2 cards.
Gosh.
You know what I mean? So essentially it's 9 mana for 2 artifacts and draw 2 cards. So I don't know. That's how I look at it. It's probably not the right way to look at it, but I think it's very interesting. I like that blue, they've been experimenting, I guess, more with blue and getting this type of effect at common, but it's fun, but I think that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, maybe a Decayed Zombie would make it better, but I don't know.
Yeah, if they threw the pocket change on there, I'd be okay with it, maybe. All right, Shipwreck Sifters is next for a generic and a blue. You get a 1/2 creature spirit. When Shipwreck Sifters enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a spirit card or a card with Disturb, put a +1/+1 counter on Shipwreck Sifters. It's good to note that those 2 effects or clauses are separate. So when it enters the battlefield, you basically loot, you draw and then discard. And then that or any time after that, if you discard a spirit card or a card with Disturb, it gets a +1/+1 counter. I think it's interesting. You would have to seriously be all in on the discard effect or, this Disturb mechanic to make this useful. And I just don't know if that would be an entirely new deck for our format. And I just don't think it's here. You know what I mean?
At least it's cheap. It's not like 5 mana for a...
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the next one is an interesting one. Startle. 1 and a blue for an instant with a lot of effects. Target creature gets -2/-0 until end of turn. And you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed, and you draw a card. I mean, okay, just 2 mana to do a lot of stuff. Makes you think, right?
Yeah, it's got just enough sort of medium abilities at its mana cost that makes it pretty interesting, I think.
I think that maybe 2 abilities, like 2 effects, it would not be a great card. But 3, it makes you think.
But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know how much it'll get used, but that sort of is the theme for this set so far. Next up, we got Storm Rider Spirit for 4 generic and a blue. It's a 3/3 spirit with flying and flash. I think we can move on to the next card.
Me too. Unblinking Observer for 1 and a blue. We have a Homunculus creature 2/1. It got tap, add a blue mana. Spend this mana only to pay a disturb cost or cast an instant or sorcery spell. Okay, you have a blue mana dork.
Well, I like it better than the previous Homunculus we had that just tapped a creature.
Yep, me too. Not great, not for Pauper, but great.
Yep, pretty good. I think probably in Limited, maybe a little bit in Standard. I feel like every Standard set or every other Standard set has one of these creatures that taps for mana to cast a certain, subset of spells, but they never end up making their way down to Pauper. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to make it that far.
And that was our last blue card for the night.
That was the last blue one. I feel pretty much the same about blue as I do white. I think it's a little more powerful. We get some creature tokens here. We've got some draw abilities. Consider is going to be one of the more played cards in this color at common, I think. So overall, blue's a little bit better than white, I think, in my mind. But we can move on to black unless you had anything to say about the blue.
Better than white, I think. But
yep.
Let's see. Let's see if black's better than blue.
All right, let's check it out. Here we got the first black card is Arrogant Outlaw. For 2 generic and a black, we get a 3/2 Vampire Noble. When Arrogant Outlaw enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I really like that effect. I wish it was a little stronger. I understand that they can't make it too strong, for the limited environment or standard of that, but losing 2 life, gaining 2 life isn't a huge swing in Pauper, but I do love the effect. I do love that it's stapled to a body.
Yeah. Maybe if it was a little cheaper or with a better body, maybe it will see playing Blackbird or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, sure. If it was a 3/3 or something like that, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, next up we have Bat Whisperer. For 4 mana, 3 and a black, we have a 4/2 Vampire. When Bat Whisperer enters the battlefield, if opponent lost life this turn, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't really know either. I like that it's a 4/2. Even at 4 mana, 4/2 is not terrible. It seems very conditional that you're going to get that black bat creature token with flying. So if it was just guaranteed to come with it, I'd be okay with that. But as it is, seems a little sketchy.
Yep, I agree.
Next up, I think we got another one we could probably pass on by here. It's a generic and a black for Blade Brand. It's an instant. Target creature gains death touch till the end of turn and draw a card. I think we've either had this specific card or... Oh, yeah. We've had it in Ravnica, Core Set 2020, Commander Legends. Yep. Okay. So it's a reprint. It's a decent one. It doesn't really see Pauper play, so I think we can move on from here, sir.
Okay, up next we have Blood Pact. It's an instant for 2 and a black. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. I like this one.
Yep, I do too. If you're looking for more Read the Bones types effect or Sign in Blood, this is right up your alley, I think.
Yep, and it's target player, so maybe Blackburn can play 2 of these. Maybe it can be a finisher. Maybe it can draw a few cards.
Yep, and it is 1 more mana than like a Sign in Blood, but it's also an instant.
Yep.
I think that's going to come into play pretty significantly if this is the type of card you wanna jam in there.
Yep.
All right, next up we have Crawl from the Cellar. For a single black, we got a sorcery, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on up to one target zombie you control, and it has flashback for 3 generic and a black. It has 2 effects, sort of the raise dead and then put a counter on a zombie. I don't feel like either of those 2 or even on the same card, I don't feel like they're powerful enough to justify trying to play this card.
I agree. I think we have better stuff in Pauper.
Yeah, agreed.
Speaking of better stuff, we have up next, Defenestrate. Great name, great art.
Excellent
Not
name.
so great card. You pay 2 and a black for an instant, destroy target creature without flying. Yep.
And that's because he got thrown out of a window. So if he had flying, he could just fly away.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm pretty low on it. But again, WotC thankfully doesn't focus too hard on Pauper when they make standard sets. So this one's probably fine and limited. Probably be good in standard. Not so good in what we're focused on here.
I don't think we have too much more to talk about it.
All right. For 4 generic and a black, we have Diregraph Horde. It's a 3/4 zombie. When Diregraph Horde enters the battlefield, create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed. When you do, exile up to 2 target cards from a graveyard. This is good. I like this a lot. We were talking about this quite a bit in the Discord chat room as it was spoiled. There's a lot going on here. It is a zombie, obviously, so it can play into a lot of different archetypes. It's a little pricey. It's 5 mana total, but you do get a 3/4. It comes with 2 extra bodies, and you can exile cards from a graveyard. So that's pretty. I think that can be pretty huge too. I saw this one mentioned in a Reanimator type list where you just bring it in and do all this crazy stuff. Works well with Ephemerate, anything like that where you're flickering it or blinking it or what have you. What do you think about it, Fernando?
I think that we are in the same position as Starro, the blue card has a lot of abilities, a lot of text, and this one it does a lot. It creates zombies. It's a great body, and exile cards from graveyards. I can see it being played in zombies deck like 1 or 2 copies because it's the top of the mana curve. I don't know. It has great effects. You can fill your board with it. All of a sudden have 3 zombies, and your Jim Palm can do a lot of damage, and the board was empty, and now we have 3 zombies. I think that people will test it. I think people will find a home for it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're going to end up seeing this one a little more than some people expect to. But yeah, I like it. I like it quite a bit. And I didn't even think about the Jim Palm Polluter interaction. Like, this creature alone gives Jim Palm, a total of 3 more zombies to kill with. So
next up we have Duress. You know the card. You know it since Urza Sagas or something. But this one, I love this art. Amazing in foil.
I do too. I think that's obviously the best part about this version is the art. I mean, it's so vivid on its own. This guy wrapped in the chains. It almost looks foil just in the art. It's so vivid.
It was about time to change the art.
Yeah, getting kind of old with the other ones. But yeah, it's great to have a new art on it as well.
Yep.
Can never go wrong with Duress. You can take the next one too, since you had Duress. It's literally been printed 100 times.
Yep. And up next you have Eaten Alive. And I like this one too, spoiler. Is 1 black mana sorcery as an additional cost to play the spell. Sacrifice a creature or pay 3 and a black. Exile target creature or planeswalker. So you guys already know that we don't have many planeswalkers in Pauper, but right. The exile effect is great because Tron have Pulse of Murasa and other stuff like that can bring stuff from graveyards. And I think that you see playing Aristocrats or maybe Torture Resistance decks.
Yeah, I really like it quite a bit. A deck like Tordex. I don't mind sacrificing creatures. I'm just going to get them back anyway, get them back to my hand. I think the big part of this, yeah, sure, it's sorcery speed, but it does exile the creature, which can be very relevant currently. All right, next up we have another flip card. For a single black, we have Ecstatic Awakener, a 1/1 human wizard. That's a party member, by the way. For 2 generic and a black, you sacrifice another creature, draw a card, then transform Ecstatic Awakener. Activate only once each turn. And the backside is Awoken Demon. It is just straight up a 4/4 black demon. No extra text. I actually kind of like this a lot. It's a little grindier than something I would normally be drawn towards, but you get this guy performing a ritual, summoning the demon, and then boom. Like, for not a whole lot of work, there's your 4/4 demon. I don't know. I think it's very flavorful. Once again, it's a flip card, so it shows sort of a story going from the guy summoning the demon to becoming the demon. It's pretty awesome. The extra ability of spending 2 blue or 2 generic and a black, yeah, that might be a little pricey, but you do get a 4/4 out of it. So I'm a fan.
I like that one too. I think that in the right home, it can be a great card, in some sort of a control shell that you manage the board, manage your life totals, and then all of a sudden you sacrifice a creature, a value creature in your graveyard, like something with a dice effect, or maybe create some zombies, and you have a 4/4 demon to, smash your opponents. I like this one too.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Up next, we have Hobbling Zombie. Hobbling Zombie.
Yep.
2 and a black for a 2/2 creature zombie with Death Touch. When Hobbling Zombie dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed.
Yep.
I think we have better zombies in Pauper, but 2 bodies for the price of 1 in Limited, I think that would be nice.
Yeah, that's very good. And the front half of this one has Death Touch, so it's almost guaranteed to be some sort of removal, and you get another creature out of it. So, all right. Mork Behemoth is next. For 4 generic and a black, we get a 7/6. That's right, a 7 power, 6 toughness zombie giant for 5 mana. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature or pay a generic and a black. And it has a menace. It cannot be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. This is kind of the black Bayou Groff. Pretty similar thing, but it's way bigger. This will eat your Gurmag anglers all day, and I love it. And I am okay. Generally, in the decks I play, I'm okay with sacrificing any of my creatures to do anything that I want to. So this fits right in line with what I want to do.
Yep, we already saw value creatures that die in effects, like the last one, Hobbling Zombie. It dies, you create a 2/2 decay token. It'll be killer in Limited. 7/6 with menace. I think that'll be great.
Yeah, it's a perfectly good, at least for testing purposes, I think it's a perfectly good exhume target, reanimator target. Get a 7/6 on turn 2 with haste. Granted it's not Ulamog's Crusher, but it does a decent impression.
Yep, and it has menace too, so no chump blocks for you.
Right, exactly.
Up next you have Novice Okutis, 1 and a black for a 1/2 human wizard. When Novice Okutis dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life.
Yeah, pretty basic. I think it's like the Dusk Legion Zealot, but the opposite. Dusk Legion you draw when it comes into play. This one you draw and lose a life when it dies. So depends on how fast you want that card.
I think I've seen similar effects in other cards and other colors in other sets.
I could see maybe in a mono black or heavily black deck, if you hit this with a Village Rites, you could have 3 cards and lose 1 life. It's not terrible,
I guess.
Yeah. All right. So No Way Out. That's what I found with that. Talking about that last card. No Way Out is the next card for 2 generic and a black. It's a sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards, and you create a 2/2 black decayed zombie creature token.
Okay.
Yeah. That's about it. That's fine. Getting them to discard 2 is always great, but I never like paying 3 for it unless it's Blightning, pretty much.
Up next, we have Olivia's Midnight Ambush. Is a 1 and a black instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. And if it's night, that creatures get -13/-13 until end of turn instead.
Very flavorful. I like it. Similar to like a Tragic Slip, but...
I got a little bit surprised there when I read the -13/-13. It's the first time I'm seeing this card, but if this mechanic of night and day is gonna be present in Pauper, okay, maybe it's very playable for 2 mana.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really know Not necessarily how to evaluate this card. I just don't really have much to say on it. I don't think it's going to see a ton of play unless Night and Day become a thing. All right, next up we have excellent art, kind of funny art, American Gothic kind of art, except with zombies. It is Rotten Reunion for a single black. We have an instant, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed, and you can flash it back for a generic and a black. Yeah, it's okay.
I think that we have something similar, like for 1 black man, exile something, but this one gives you the pocket change and it has flashback. I like it.
Yep. Yeah, we have an apparition that gives you a 1/1 spirit, and you can exile something. So this is probably strictly better than that, I would think.
Yeah, maybe, because back on apparition it has flying. The creature has flying, right?
That's true. Yep, that's true.
Little evasion there. Next up, we have Shady Traveler. Is a 2 and a black for a 2/3 human werewolf. The first werewolf we're seeing today. It has menace and daybound. If a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn. And the other side of the card is Stalking Predator. It is a creature werewolf with menace, a 4/4 creature. Okay, nice art.
Yep, the nightbound, daybound thing's a little
confusing.
Yeah, it is a little confusing. I hate to say that, but it is a little confusing. Like, yeah, basically with daybound, like you read, if any player, it just says if a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn. And pretty much the opposite with nightbound. If a player casts at least 2 spells during their own turn, it becomes day next turn. It's going to be a little hard to track. Obviously, it'll be easy on Arena, but in paper, it might get a little confusing, especially since the daybound, nightbound mechanic they didn't errata any of the old Innistrad flip cards, werewolves, and stuff like that to function with daybound and nightbound. So,
yep. Exactly what I was thinking. Because, in paper Magic, you have to do it all by hand. You don't have, like MTGO or Arena, to control the actions, to keep track of everything in the board. So you have to see if your player is casting spells and how many spells, and keep track of that. And I think we're going to see a lot of stuff going on, a lot of mistakes and a lot of judge calls.
Yeah, a lot of judge calls, I feel like. But otherwise, this card's okay. It's a 2/3 for 3 that turns into a 4/4 werewolf with menace. Not super strong, but yeah, probably super fun and limited at least. Yep. All right, another zombie's up next. It's Siege Zombie. For a generic and a black, we have a 2/2 zombie. Again, tap 3 untapped creatures you control. Each opponent loses 1 life. I feel like that's a lot of creatures to tap for a minimal effect.
Yep, exactly.
If it was gain life equal to, life lost this way, that'd be okay. But as it is, I'm not super high on that card at all.
Okay, next up we have Vampire Interloper, or something like that.
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
For 1 and a black, you have a 2/1 Vampire Scout with flying, and it can't block. Meh.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. And that'll wrap up the black cards. A lot of zombies, a lot of 2/2 pocket change zombies. Overall, I think black was pretty level, pretty even. Spread out around kind of all the cards. There's quite a few that I want to actually play with. Some that I think I'll try out in current decks that we have right now. Zombies, Reanimator, that sort of thing. So far, obviously being Innistrad, I think black is naturally going to be a little better than, say, white or blue. So that's not a big surprise. What do you think?
We have good cards. I mean, the Duress new art is great. Rotten Reunion is
fantastic.
Great. Eden Alive is great. Diagraph Horde is okay. The Exciting Awakener is okay. I think that we can brew a lot with black in this set.
Yeah, if we were putting it on that scale of the 3 colors that we've gone over so far, I think black's the most brewable.
Yep.
But we'll see what red has in store. On to the first red card. It is Abandon the Post. For a generic and a red, you get a sorcery. Up to 2 target creatures cannot block this turn. Flashback for 3 generic and a red. Not great. We have spells with way better effects than this at cheaper costs, and those don't see play, so I can't imagine this really will, but I enjoy it. The art's good. The guards are running away from the gate of the post, I guess, because there's a werewolf coming after them. It's pretty hilarious, but that's it. That's my thoughts. I think the art is better than the card.
And the flavor text too. You don't have to outrun the werewolf. You only have to outrun your fellow guards.
That is so true. Words to live by.
This next card, I think, I'm just gonna say before reading the card, I think it's great. I think that it will see play, and maybe will be a pauper staple, right?
Ooh.
Heavy words.
I like it. Those are heavy words, but I like it. I'm with you.
I'm talking about Ardent Elementalist. Is a 3 and a red for a creature human shaman 2/1. When Ardent Elementalist enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Is red Archaeomancer. Is red Mnemonic Wall.
We have this effect on other creatures, but they're considerably more expensive, 4, 5, 6 mana, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I think this one's great. I think it's going to see play right off the bat. I think if it's probably going to be one of the cards people pick up on MTGO right away and start playing with. It works with so many different strategies. You know, it's kind of pricey if you're going for more of an aggro type deck, but if you care at all about getting those cards back out of your graveyard, to recast them and this and that, I think Ardent Elementalist is fantastic. I know it's not up to the power level of, say, the modern format, but it feels like a modern card to me, if that makes sense.
Yep. I don't know if you remember the blue-red flicker deck that used to be a thing in the past.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, we had some like blue-red flicker with some kind of burn spells and cards like that. And I think that this card will be maybe something to test around, to play around, to mess around in this kind of deck, this kind of shell. It not be like I'm gonna take off my mnemonic walls for my Throne deck, but I think that's great to have this card around to play with.
Yeah, I agree. Of all the cards we've talked about so far, I think this is one of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 that, you know, you can specifically build a deck around in Pauper.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we have a Devil, Brimstone Vandal. For 2 generic and a red, it's a 2/3 with Menace. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Brimstone Vandal enters the battlefield. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, Brimstone Vandal deals 1 damage to each opponent. The mana value's fine, the body's fine, it's cool that it's a devil, but you can pretty much ignore the rest of its text. I don't think night and day is going to be a huge deal in our format, and even if it is, you know, one damage to each opponent is not a finisher. It's not a big deal. You know, it's not going to win you any games necessarily.
Yep, I know, and I agree, and I'm kind of happy that night and day is not going to be a popular mechanic, because you know, we already have Monarch, and we have to keep track of Monarchy. And,
yeah.
Oh, okay, it's night. I'm the night Monarch, and now, okay, no, too much for me.
Nope, I'm with you. I'm glad that we haven't seen too many of them. I don't want to keep track of that.
Let me see. The next one is Burn the Accursed. For 5 mana for a red, we have an instant. This one deals 5 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. If that creature will die this turn, exile it instead. Too expensive.
Crazy expensive. I mean, we have Searing Blaze for 2 red that almost does the same thing. Yeah, this is just crazy expensive. 5 mana for 2 damage to your opponent. And, you know, honestly, you could just cast 2 lightning bolts. You know, 1 on a creature and 1 on their face and just be fine. All right, next up, we got Electric Revelation. This is another piece of artwork that is going to be phenomenal in foil. For 2 generic and a red, it's an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards, flashback of 3 and a red. Faithless Looting, this is not, but it should be, if you're finding yourself short on this type of effect, I think this is a fine card to use.
I think that we have the other one, like Trio of Possibilities, I think.
Yeah.
I think Trio of Possibilities will be a better card than this one. I have to choose.
No, I agree. Yep.
Next up, we have a Falcon Wrath Perforator.
Very nice.
Crazy name for a not so good card. 1 and a red for a 2/1 vampire. Whenever Falcon Wrath Perforator attacks, it deals 1 damage to defending player.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I think it's okay if you want to build a vampire deck. This probably goes right in there, but that's probably as far as it goes.
Yep.
Next up, we have another vampire, Famished Foragers. For 3 and a red, you get a 4/3. When Famished Foragers enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, add red to your mana pool. And then for 2 and a red, you can discard a card and draw a card. I do like this one a lot. This one, whether it'll be good or not, we had a lot of people talking. If you manage to take some life from your opponent, when you cast it, this is basically a 1 red mana 4/3. Sort of. You get those 3 mana back, and those are probably going to go right into the discard, draw a card, looting effect. But as we've seen in Pauper, we have a lot of stuff you can do in 1 turn with 3 red mana. So things could get pretty interesting, I think, with this card. What do you think?
I like this one as a mana sink, but I don't think that Burn needs a mana sink.
No, I agree.
If you on turn 4 and 5, and you ran out of cards and you need something to draw you more cards, you're not going to win that game.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I think you nailed it right on the head. Yeah, this is definitely a later game strategy sort of card. It's nothing, I guess you could cheat it out with some sort of reanimation spell, but I don't think it's that good that you want to build around it or anything like that.
If it was a little cheaper, like 3 mana for a 2/2 with that effect, I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to a lot of cards we've talked about where they're really cool. They're just missing one little stat here or there, or one tweak in the numbers to make them awesome, which is fine. Totally fine.
Next up, we have Festival Crasher. A devil for 1 red, a 1/3 devil. Whenever it casts an instant or sorcery spell, Festival Crasher gets +2/+0 until end of turn. I like this one. I think it's Kilnfin little brother. I think they'll go great together, like a redundancy kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would love to see this devil and Kiln Fiend next to each other on the battlefield. I'm a big fan.
A great couple.
Yeah. All right, next up is another flip card. It's Harvest Tide Infiltrator. It is 2 generic and a red for a human werewolf. It's a 3/2, and it has trample, which is cool. I always like red creatures with trample, but it has Daybound. If a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night. And on the backside, it is Harvest Tide Assailant. It's a 4/4 werewolf with trample and nightbound. Pretty straightforward. I don't see much that's real fancy about this card. There's nothing really drawing me into this card that makes me want to play it necessarily, except for maybe the art. It's pretty sweet art.
I was looking at the art right now, and very good one.
This big old barbarian, guy that transforms into a werewolf. It's awesome.
Next up, we have Immolation. 1 mana enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/-2. It's a very old card. It was already in the format, a reprint. I think it was 25 years without a reprint of this one.
Actually, I think a little longer. It was in Legends, which came out around 94. So yeah, we're pushing the 26-year mark, 27-year mark, somewhere around there, if I can do my math right.
Yeah, something like that. 4th edition, Black Border, Legends.
That's a long time in between reprints. But yeah, I think this is going to be, I don't know about a Pauper staple, but I know I've heard people talk about it. It's going to be a huge card in Standard, obviously Limited. I've even heard some Modern players talk about it's just good. It's solid removal, or it's, buffing up your own creatures that can withstand that -2. So overall, I think it's a pretty good card.
Yep.
All right, next up, we have straight up just a wolf, Lambholt Harrier. For a generic and a red, you get a 2/2 wolf. And then the only text on it is 3 generic and a red, : target creature can't block this turn. Wah, wah. I think we can move on from this one.
Yeah, 2/2 for 2. But
yep.
Up next, we have Lightning Bolt. Okay, Moonrager Slash. For 2 and a red, Moonrager Slash deals 3 damage to any target, but this spell costs 2 less if it's night.
Of all the day and night cards we've read, this one's my favorite.
Yep.
I don't know how often we'll be able to cast it as a lightning bolt, but it is my favorite of the day-night cycle cards we've had so far.
I think that will be great in Standard. Maybe some kind of werewolf deck when you need a removal or maybe a quick instant finisher in a day, night kind of stuff with werewolves, and it's a great spell.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we have Mounted Dread Knight for 4 generic and a red. It's a 5/4 Vampire Knight with Trample. Mounted Dread Knight enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. I think that's pretty good, but whether it's constructed, competitive, pauper playable, I'm not totally sure.
Yep, I'm not very fond of it.
Right.
Up next, we have Neonate's Rush, instant for 2 in a red. The spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a vampire. Neonate's Rush deals 1 damage to target creature and 1 damage to its controller. Draw a card. It's okay if you have a vampire, like for 2 and have 2 effects, but...
Sure. It's almost the vampire's version of Needle Drop, so...
Yep.
But yeah, I like it. Again, you kind of have to be heavy on the vampires to make it work, but we've got plenty of them. You know, vampire decks aren't super strong in our format, but a card like this would obviously just fit right in there. All right, next up we have Pax Betrayal. 2 generic and a red for a sorcery. It's a wrangle type effect. Gain control of target creature until the end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until the end of turn. If you control a wolf or werewolf, scry 2. I like these sort of, I'm going to steal your creature and bash you with it effects, but I'm not sure I like it having scry 2 just tacked onto it. I'm not sure what the scry does for you here. It seems sort of counterintuitive to what the rest of the card's doing.
I like the mechanic. I think that we have a lot of cards with this mechanic in Magic history, and none of it is in play in Pauper. I don't think this one will, you know?
No, I agree with you. The other ones, you know, they'll see play in some aristocrats type brews where you can steal a creature and sack it and all that kind of stuff. I think this one is probably strictly worse than ones we've seen in recent history.
It has this condition to control a wolf or a werewolf. But the next card, raise the effigy. 1 red mana for an instant spell. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact or target attacked creature. Gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I like the versatility. I think that cards with choose effects are great because, you know, you have 2 cards in 1 and you can destroy some artifacts, and it's great in Pauper right now. And you can still pump a creature, attacking creature.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's great. I like the fact that the 2 choices on here are kind of drastically different. Like, you can choose target artifact to destroy, or on the other side of the spectrum, you can buff up one of your attacking creatures. I think that's pretty awesome. It's a very red thing to do.
Yep.
Speaking of very red things, next up is Stolen Vitality. For a generic and a red, you have an instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 until the end of turn. If it's your turn, that creature gains trample until the end of turn. Otherwise, it gains first strike until the end of turn. I think this is... It's probably not as good as I've built it up in my head. Maybe it's just the artwork of the guy staring at me has me mesmerized. But I would love to play this in a Kiln Fiend style deck, Blitz style deck, because it's pretty versatile. It's useful as protection. It can give your creature first strike if you're on the defense. If you're going in for that 1-turn kill sort of effect, it can help you swing in with a huge Kiln Fiend. You know.
I don't know, man. I'm almost not paying attention to the card because the art is making me uncomfortable.
I might have to scroll past this guy. I'm not sure.
Up next, we have Tavern Ruffian. For 3 and a red, we have a 2/5 creature, human warrior werewolf. Lots of words in one.
Wow.
Yeah. And has Daybound. If a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn. And the other side is Tavern Smasher, a 6/5 werewolf with Nightbound. So, a big werewolf, 4 mana, maybe a great flip card in Limited. I don't think that we have a home for it in Pauper. Not great art. I don't know, just a cool werewolf, I guess.
Yeah, it is a cool werewolf. The ruffian on the front side probably gets a few beers in him, then starts smashing tables on the backside. Yeah, it's fine. Probably not Pauper playable, but I'm certain it's going to smash some faces in Limited. All right, next up we have Valderran Stinger. For a single red, we get a 1/1 Vampire Warrior. Valderran Stinger has first strike as long as it's attacking. And then for 2 generic and a red, Valderran Stinger gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. I don't even think this would be good in a vampire deck in Pauper. That's a lot of mana to sink into this thing when it dies to a gut shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know.
So what do you think about our red? That wraps up the red cards here for Innistrad. What do you think about them?
I don't think that red was a great color in this set. I think we have 2, maybe 3 great cards. One really good one, the Elementalist. Our red Mnemonic Wall. Raise the Effigy is good too, but I don't think that red is standing out as a great color in this set.
No, I agree with you. It'll be fun to play with, but I'm interested in the Famished Foragers, the one that gives you the mana back when you cast it or when it enters the battlefield. That should be interesting, but that's more of just my janky brew side wanting to play with it.
The first green card is Bird Admirer, a creature, human, archer, werewolf for 2 and a green, 1 for reach, and it has Daybound. So the other side is Wing Shredder, 3/5 reach werewolf. I don't know, kind of expensive, I guess.
It is a little expensive. Honestly, of all the daybound, nightbound, if it's day, if it's night creatures we've seen so far, this might be my favorite. I wish it was an elf archer. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, it's 3 mana for 1/4. If you have some sort of big green control list and you need some creatures out there to help block while you're building up to your finisher, that's fine. And then 3/5 on the back with reach. That's not nothing. It can pretty much block every flyer in the format. But yeah, I'm not high on this card as it is. I just think of the creatures we've seen with daybound and nightbound, it's probably my favorite, but that doesn't really make it playable. Next up we have Bounding Wolf for 2 generic and a green. We have a 3/2 wolf with flash and reach. Clean, simple wolf, flash, reach, 3/2. And that's it. I think we can move on.
Up next, we have Rainbow Armor, an artifact with 1 and a green equipment. When Rainbow Armor enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. It gets +2/+1, equip 4.
Yep, this reminds me a lot of the Rose Thorn Halberd from Throne of Eldraine. It's a big, beefy green equipment that comes right in and attaches to one of your creatures. I like that effect a lot. We barely have, red and white equipment decks, so I think it's gonna be a minute before green can sort of break in to the scene on that respect, but I do like it. I like that it comes in attached and it's fairly cheap.
It's going to be a long minute before green artifacts is going to happen in the scene.
Next up, we have Candlelit Cavalry. For 4 generic and a green, we get a 5/5 with Coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, Candlelit Cavalry gains trample until the end of turn. 5/5 with trample, sometimes for 5 mana. I think we can go to the next one.
Downheart Rejuvenator is a 3 and a green for a 2/4 creature, human, warlock. When Downheart Rejuvenator enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's a little pricey. I don't really like that for 4 mana, but it is a 2/4. I don't know. I don't really like my mana dorks to cost more than 3, if I can help it.
I think it will be good in limited because it gives you a little time with the 3 life and is a great body to block something, and you can still use it for mana. I don't know, versatile card for limited, but not for pauper.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, we have Duel for Dominance, a generic and a green for an instant, and this one only has Coven on it. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. If you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, put a +1/+1 counter on the chosen creature you control, then the chosen creatures fight each other. It's a green removal spell for standard.
Yep.
That's about it.
That's about it.
I mean, the counter is permanent. It's not like it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. It is a permanent. If you're brewing maybe a green-white heroic deck, I've heard people talk about that. I've tried to brew them before. Maybe this is something that slides in there. But as it is, I don't think that's great. We have Savage Swipe. We have Ram Through, that sort of thing. So I think we're good. I don't think we need Duel for Dominance.
That's what I was thinking, because, there's no world that I would have this one instead of Ram Through in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Eccentric Farmer. I'm just realizing right now that eccentrics are a cycle in the set.
I think I just realized it when you just said it.
Yep. So, Eccentric Farmer is a 2 and a green for a 2/3 human peasant. When Eccentric Farmer enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards, then you may return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, I think it's got just enough going for it. I do like it. I think it's going to be test-worthy in Tortured Existence.
Exactly.
But almost every black and green card is, in my mind. But I do like the mill. I do like that it gets you a land back, etc., etc. And 2/3 is really not a terrible body. I mean, it's a little pricey at 3 mana, but you could do worse. All right, next up we have Harvest Tide Sentry. For a generic and a green, we get a 3/1 human warrior, which is a party member. And all it has is Coven at the beginning of your combat, yada, yada, yada. Harvest Tide Sentry can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn.
I don't think that Coven will be a thing in Pauper.
I don't think it will either. No, I don't think Coven will be a thing. I think it'll be an incidental thing, like, hey, I really like this creature. Oh, and by the way, it has Coven that's going to trigger every 7th match. But that's about it.
Up next, you have Howl of the Hunt. 2 and a green for Enchantment Aura. Flash, enchanted creature. When Howl of the Hunt enters the battlefield, if enchanted creature is a wolf or a werewolf, untap that creature. It gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. Too many conditionals for a not so great card, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's intriguing to me because it is an aura, and I'm a sucker for auras. It does have flash, which I like. It could probably slide into that theoretical green-white heroic deck I mentioned a minute ago, but ultimately you're probably right. There's probably too many conditions for this card, and I just don't think it's that good. You know, at 3 mana, we have Elephant Guide, which I think is just strictly better than this.
Yep.
All right, up next we have Might of the Old Ways. For a generic and a green, we get an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn, and if you have Coven, draw a card. Now this Coven card I like. Green doesn't often get draw abilities, so I do like this one, but I would not count on having Coven activated every time that I casted it.
If it was like +3/+3, maybe.
Yeah, if it was a giant growth, that'd be great.
Up next we have Path to the Festival. Great art. Beautiful art. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield, tap it, then shuffle. Then, if there are 3 or more basic land types among lands you control, scry 1. Flashback 5, 4 and a green. Again, great art.
They just there's a few cards now that they just sort of, it's kind of like the decayed zombies. They just sort of stapled on scry, like here you go, here's a decent effect, and oh, by the way, I don't know, scry 1 for some reason.
Yep.
We have literally a million other land tutor effects that are just strictly better than this.
Exactly.
Pestilent Wolf is up next for a generic and a green. It's a 2/2 wolf, and then for 2 and a green, Pestilent Wolf gains Death Touch until the end of turn. Meh.
Nice to drop in limited, but that's it.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
We have 2 reprints in a row, I guess. Plummet.
Yep.
1 and a green to destroy target creature with flying, and Return to Nature as a good one. 1 and a green, instance, choose 1, destroy target artifacts, or enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. So, 2 okay reprints. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's doing any favors for the color green when 2 of the better cards at common are reprints.
Yeah. And we also have Shadow Beast Sighting. Almost like a Bigfoot sighting, the classic picture of Bigfoot. For 3 and a green, you have a sorcery. Create a 4/4 green beast creature token with flashback for 7, 6 and a green.
Yeah, it's a big beefy boy. What do you think?
Not for pauper, great for limited. 2 creatures with 1 card. 4/4 green beast creature token, a great body.
Yep, but we already have some effects like this, like Trumpeting Herd and that sort of thing. If you just love big old creature tokens, it's probably awesome for you. But yeah, I don't see it showing up in any leagues or challenges. The art though is awesome. It's very, it's got that classic Bigfoot stride. You know, the Patterson Gimlin film of Bigfoot looking back on the guys and getting caught on camera. That's very reminiscent of that, and I think it's awesome.
And I just love how you just know the name of the all the stuff about the Bigfoot.
Oops, maybe I showed my hand a little too much. Oh, next up we have another wolf, a 1/1 wolf for 1, and it's Snarling Wolf. And then for a green and a generic, Snarling Wolf gets +2/+2 until the end of turn, but you can only do it once.
It's like a word basically in Rootwalla.
Yeah, essentially, basically it is. So it'll go in that non-existent wolf tribal deck that we have.
Yep. Next up, we have Tapping at the Window. 1 and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put the rest into your graveyard. Flashback 2 and a green. I don't know what to think about it.
It's pretty similar to Path to the Festival, where it's kind of a minimal effect with a kind of expensive flashback cost, and it's sorcery speed. So I don't really see anything that's catching my eye on this one, except for the creepy art. I think the big creepy tree branch tapping at the window. I like that.
I think that just like the other card we read, like How of the Hunt. No, not How of the Hunt. Duel for Dominance. This,
yeah.
Yeah, this one is a worse version of a green Ikoria card. Like in Ikoria, they reprinted Lead for Stampede.
Oh, yep.
And
Lead the Stampede.
Yeah, Lead the Stampede and Ran Through. So Duel for Dominance is a worse Ran Through, and this one is a worse Lead the Stampede.
Yep. Even with the flashback, it's still not great. Next up, we have Timberland Guide. For a generic and a green, we get a 1/1 human scout. When Timberland Guide enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. This is functionally a reprint of, 15 other cards that we've seen throughout Magic's history, and none of those really see play. So I think we can probably move on from here.
Next up, we have Tireless Howler. 4 and a green for a 4/5 human werewolf with vigilance and daybound. The other side of the card is Dire Strain Brawler, a 6/6 vigilance werewolf.
I like the flip side of it.
Yep.
Big old beefy werewolf with vigilance. I like that. I don't know if I like trying to cast the front side of it, but
I think that it will be a great limited card, like top of the curve, the green curve for limited decks.
Sure.
Beefy guy, a great monster finisher, but again, not for Pauper. And I may look like I'm ranting about not for Pauper, but I'm kind of happy about it. We're talking about it sometimes because we don't like sets that are too powerful from Eternal formats. So a standard set that adds like 2 or 3, maybe 4 cards for Pauper, for me is the exactly sweet spot.
Yeah, same here. I really couldn't agree more. 1 or 2 cards, it doesn't even have to be from every color, just, half a dozen cards out of the whole set to be played in Pauper. That's perfect. Even if it's just 2 or 3, that's totally fine. I don't think we need anything focused on the format. Obviously, our power generally comes from supplementary sets, Commander Legends and Modern Horizons and that sort of thing. So I'm totally cool with underpowered standard sets. I think it makes for a fun limited environment and a very safe Pauper environment.
I think that slow is good. Slow is a good way to go.
I'm okay with slow. And that wraps up the green cards. I don't think green is super powerful at common in this set. I know a couple people I talked to on Twitter have the same sort of mindset about green, that even in like historic Pauper or standard Pauper, it's not super powerful. So I don't think there's anything there that we're missing that they got or anything like that. It's just sort of a dirtily color in this set. It's kind of slow. The creatures are kind of expensive. But again, like we just mentioned, I think that's totally fine.
I think that's green's the worst color of this set.
Yep, I do too. I hadn't thought about this before, but I think if I had to rank them, it would probably be black, blue, red, white, green, something in that order. And that's just off the top of my head or whatever. But
yeah, I think I agree with you. Maybe if you look at it with like love, put white in front of red, but just the elementalists alone.
Yeah,
I guess you're right.
Yeah, I see. What you're saying.
no change about it.
All right, next we actually only got 4 artifacts. Do you want to take the first one?
And the first one is Crossroads Candle Guide, a 4-mana 3/4 artifact, creature Scarecrow. When Crossroads Candle Guide enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. You may pay 2 and add 1 mana of any color. You have to pay 2 mana to add just 1 mana of any color, like the worst filter ever.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of is. It's fun. It's flavorful. The big old scarecrow, but yeah, that's a lot to ask, I think.
Okay, it has a body.
Yeah, it's got a decent body. It's a 3/4. You really got to need that 1 color of mana to drop 2 on it.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a pretty classic one. It's a Jack-o'-lantern. For a single generic mana, it's just an artifact. And it has 2 lines of text. 1, tap, sacrifice Jack-o'-lantern, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, then draw a card. Or 1, exile Jack-o'-lantern from your own graveyard, add 1 mana of any color. I have a feeling that first line is going to be used more often than the second line, but you never know. It's all pretty cheap. It's a 1 mana, it's a 1 drop, and the activated abilities aren't very expensive either. And that art is going to look amazing in foil.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep. This big old fiery jack-o'-lantern. It's awesome.
I think that this card is interesting. I tend to look at these artifacts and don't think too much about it. It was the same with spare supplies. Like, why do we need spare supplies? We have already Alchemist Vial, we have the Prophetic Prism, but spare supplies is amazing.
Yeah.
And Jack-o'-lantern is 1 mana cheaper than all the other ETB artifacts from Boros Monarch and stuff like that. Maybe because it's 1 mana cheaper and you just pay 1 mana to do the effect and draw a card. Maybe may see some play.
Yeah.
Not gonna be surprised.
Yep. I think it's worth a little bit of testing. Not that we don't have better versions of Jack-o'-lantern, but I think it's just interesting enough.
Up next, we have Silver Bolt. 1 mana artifact. You pay 3, tap it, sacrifice Silver Bolt, it deals 3 damage to target creature. If a werewolf is dealt damage this way, destroy it. It's like I don't know, man. Like a bolt that you can divide the cost. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's not great. It's probably one of the more flavorful cards we've got. The silver bullet kills the wolf sort of thing. But yeah, it seems like every standard set, every other set has some sort of artifact that you sacrifice to do damage, and it's probably awesome and limited. But once again, I don't think it'll see really any pauper play unless for some reason werewolves become a problem. Next up, we have the last actual card in our preview here. It's Stuffed Bear for 2 generic. It's an artifact, and that's it. Until you pay 2 mana, and then Stuffed Bear becomes a 4/4 green bear artifact creature until the end of turn. I actually really like this card as sort of like a meme, like a joke almost. Like it's sort of cute and funny, and like, hey, my big bear statue becomes green, is going to kill you or whatever. But overall, I don't think it's great. It's just sort of funny.
I don't even know what to say. It's okay. It's okay card.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. I don't even see myself like wanting to put it in a deck. I think it's just funny. It's just a funny card.
In the lands department, we have just Evolving Wilds of a non-base clan, but we have the new lands from Midnight Hunt, the almost black and white lands. What do you think about them?
I think they're really sweet. Yeah, they're black and white. They're not quite like the sketch art we had in Modern Horizons. They're more of like old school horror movie-ish black and white art. They're all really cool. I think the swamps are probably my favorite, just like black's probably my favorite color in this set. But they're all really cool.
And the purple from the swamps is amazing.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. But yeah, they're all really cool. They're probably going to look amazing in foil, and they're full art, so can't really go wrong there.
A friend of mine was complaining that they can be tricky to spot in like a clustered board with full set of lands of every type, and because they all look black and white and the same if you don't pay attention. But I really like them. I like the art. I like cosmetics. I don't mind cosmetics at all.
Yeah, I think they're great. I didn't think about that. Yeah, if you're playing a 2 or 3 color deck, they do all sort of look alike. From a distance, if you're sitting across the table, you may not instantly recognize that that's an island or that's a forest or swamp or whatever. I could see that being a bit of an issue, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. I'm probably going to get like one of each just to collect.
Yep. Probably one foil of each, maybe. I don't know yet.
Foil are a bit out of my price range, but I guess that's it.
Yeah, I think that is it. And you said earlier the best way for people to get in touch with you here is Twitter and Instagram, right?
Yep.
And are you the same? Is it at fportalada on both of those as well? Or on Twitter, it's ifportalada.
IF Portalada. In both of them are IF Portalada.
Okay, perfect. We'll get those in the show notes too. But I think that's it. Did you have anything else for the fine people out there in Radio Land, Mr. Fernando?
I'm just happy to be here on this side of the show. I was very nervous. You guys can tell.
No, you did great.
English obviously is not my first language. It's hard to English sometimes.
It's hard for me to English sometimes too.
But I'm just happy to be here. I'm sorry that the Christian is not feeling great and couldn't be here with us today. But I'm happy to feel this whole for tonight. So I'm sorry about the English mistakes, guys. I'm hoping I'm get all of them in the editing. But that's it. You can talk to me. You can in the Twitter or Instagram at IF Portalada, both of them.
Yeah, that sounds great. I do appreciate you stepping in. I know Christian does as well. It's finally great to get to talk to you. Normally we just message back and forth, tweet back and forth, and that sort of thing. So it was really cool to hang out with you for the night. I appreciate you coming on. It was sort of last minute, but we got it worked out.
Yep. Thank you guys for receiving me on this end.
No, not a problem. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And I think that'll do it for this episode of Common Knowledge. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can find Christian on Twitter at JustGuyDad, or you can find me at Pauper_B on Twitter, BradDrackV on MTGO. You can always email the show to at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. If you have any questions about Pauper, MTGO, really anything else, shoot us an email, leave a comment. However you get in touch with us is great. Thanks again to our sponsors, PureMTGO.com, as well as the Constructive Criticism Network. And last, but certainly not least, thank you for listening. Take very good care of each other.
E nunca pare de se preocupar com os lobisomens.